Hi, welcome back to my channel. I want to do a video on your aura layers, which I've wanted to do for a little while, but have not gotten around to because of how I have honestly, I think it's just because I've been working on them myself, and sometimes when it comes to holistic practical stuff, it's easier to have the right mindset to do it. Because I find if I'm going to find it boring to film, it's going to be boring to watch. But I think I'm in the place because I feel like I've worked on my aura levels a lot, and I'll explain what I mean. So I think so. We all have seven. It is a holistic idea. Some people might not find this interesting or validate it or whatever. That's for you not to watch. We apparently have seven aura layers. Okay. And they're different sizes, they're different colors, they have different purposes, and they have different things that are affect them. Because I'm a massive person of because I'm a highly sensitive person and an empath. Maybe I have, and I think trauma as well, I've noticed, can affect your aura layers, and I think it just overall affects your energy in whatever way that can manifest. As an empath, potentially being more susceptible to other people's energy, generally more stressed out. And there's also like a mental layer, for example, if you've got certain aspects of emotional wounding and stuff, it can affect this mental layer, which you can look at from a psychological standpoint. It's another way to also understand our bodies and psychology and physiology, apart from like through like science. I mean, okay, it's kind of a science. It probably is a science, to be fair. I don't know, but what I mean is, it's not psychology necessarily. It kind of is related to psychology, but it's not like a therapy, if you know what I mean. It's not like a medicalized. Okay, it is medicalized probably, but it's like holistic medicine. But it's not so much like, for me, it's very imagery based and holistic over like talking therapy and stuff, if you know what I mean. So that's why it makes it's a lot more easier for me to digest. Um, but anyway, so your first layer is your etheric layer, and it's the layer closest to your body, and it gives you information about your physical health, and it's supposed to be shades of blue, and it reaches between 1.25 to 2 inches, and it reads pain and pleasure. So I do think, just to add in here, that we do have some level of hypo and hypersensitive physical aspects of most people, but also if you have a level of like, autistic traits and stuff, I think you can have a level of numbness, not numbness so much as like hypo and hypersensitivity in physical aspects of your body, which might have an effect on how you feel pain and pleasure. But also, it's not so much related to the mental side of it, but I do think that, well, it kind of is actually. I think it's all related. I think if you've got trauma in certain areas of your body, because I think our emotions are stored in our bodies, and in our cells and in our muscles and stuff. I've done so much research on this. I've done so much talking on this, sorry, on my channel. But your body does store your trauma in your in your system, in your cells and and everything. To when it's not processed, and I do think this can have an impact on how you feel pain and pleasure. I think this is how blind spots can manifest themselves in life, because you might not feel the pain in a certain area, you might not even feel the pleasure in a certain area. They talk about when you, and I think it's all related to aura levels as well, when you integrate your dark sides, you also develop this golden self. You talk about the shadow self. You also then develop the golden self when you integrate your shadow self, and I think this can be a sense of like, you're more sensitive to the pleasure in aspects of life, but you're possibly more sensitive to the pain aspects of life. I think it's important to be in touch with both, but I do think it's also important. But I don't know, and I don't want to say this, but I did see the other day, on some old research video and stuff, that certain aspects of childhood neglect can induce certain autistic levels. I'm not saying like if you deal with your childhood abuse that you heal from autism. I think autism is an extremely, it's like a condition in its own right. But I think there are certain aspects of it that can be, I don't know, I've just heard that it can be induced from childhood neglect at the same time. But anyway, so I feel like maybe that hypo and hypersensitivity can maybe change, because I do think it's also a level of inflammation. Okay, regardless of autism, because I don't have enough information on that, and I'm not here to say I can cure the word of autism. But I think there can also be a level of inflammation on your body that that can also prevent the level of pain or pleasure, and obviously, as I said, like trapped stress hormones and stuff that can make it more painful, like back pain and stuff. It can be a manifestation of physical stress or mental stress or lifestyle stress that is being stored in your back, for example, and that's the way that your body is kind of managing it and letting you know that it's there. But it can bring this like higher level of pain. But anyway, the second layer is the emotional layer, and it's muddied when it's negative. It handles emotions and feelings. It should be a bright rainbow combination, and it reaches 1 inch to 3 inches. So I suppose it overlaps with the pain and pleasure one I've just looked at. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, so the pain and pleasure should be in the middle of this emotional layer, which kind of sits like through that, it covers the pain and pleasure layer. Fair enough. So yeah, and problems in this area will impact the first and third layers. I'll talk about third layer in a minute, which is the mental layer. But I haven't done a video on this again because it's just one of those things that you need to be in the right mindset to talk about. But I'm a massive believer of like aura reading. Like I feel like I can see the colours of a person's aura. Whether this is like a gift level or everyone can do it, I honestly don't know. But it's a case of like I believe that there's colours around your body, in your aura, if you like, that kind of gives you a sense of someone's thoughts capacity and of their of the impact of the intent, not necessarily intent, it's all things like intention and stuff is one thing, but your colors, for example, in your aura, and it depends, you can see different places of your aura, depending on how you are actually interested to how you want to be perceived, how you actually perceive something, and the level of transcendence or transcendence you want from a situation is the level of above you. But that's something else. I think it's a specific thing. But in terms of the colours that come up in aura reading, for example, red is mainly associated with passion, yellow is associated with happiness, and among other words for emotions. Purple's associated with like spirituality and contemplation and stuff. Green's more of a level of healing. Black's a level of like exhaustion, and white's a level of transcendence, for example. And orange is a level of like passion, I think, again, and stuff like that. And pink's a level of like love and all that stuff. And I think this is also present in like chakras. When you look at a chakra chart, and I've done a video on chakras, which is like your body's energetic system. Anyway, chakras is something else, I don't want to digress too far. And crystals and stuff, even things like that, all of the colours usually represent the same sort of feelings and stuff. So yeah, and I think when it says that this can affect your mental layer and pain and pleasure layer, I've already kind of touched how it can affect your pain and pleasure layer, but when it says muddied when negative, and I think what they mean by muddied is a darker aura layer, because black and dark colours are related to exhaustion and fatigue and stress and all that stuff. And I think this can manifest through mood as well, actually. And I suppose it's part of your emotional layer, where you can obviously potentially feel a level of depression. I don't know if on some level, I don't know, this is just me connoting this, whether anxiety could be your body's reaction to a level of numbness or trapped trauma and negative energy in a situation to keep you safe, but allow you to be hyper vigilant, maybe in some level, to see dangers, but at the same time you're not feeling it on a physical level because of that trapped trauma. That could be a sense of anxiety. But who knows? I don't know because I haven't googled that, but that's just something that I thought about. It's okay. I feel very proud of myself. I'm like a holistic queen, genius lady, but no. So that is that. Third layer is the mental layer, connected to the solar plexus chakra, which is kind of like around your belly button. It is associated with mental processes, ideas, and thoughts. It should be a colour that is bright yellow, and it carries from your emotional layer, which is your 3rd inches. You can look at this in terms of inches. Your 3rd inch to your 8th inch, so it's quite a large level of your aura. And it there are overlaps here. I don't know why they're like talking about each one. I thought that they kind of like went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they're, in terms of the span that they take up, they're a bit muddled here the way it's been written down. But it reaches between your 3rd and 8th layer, so from your emotional layer outwards. If this color is off, there could be mental issues. So they've just put it as mental issues, but it's like, yeah, if it's not bright yellow, yeah, there can be some level of issue. So in terms of thoughts, mental processes and stuff, obviously this is going to affect your mental layer for obvious reasons. Like I don't really want to get too far into that because I've just done a lot of videos on emotions recently, I think. But obviously if you have a certain emotion that's negative, it's going to affect your mental, process towards a situation. Like if you're not in touch with certain emotions, you're going to have a certain mental process. If you're in touch with certain emotions, you're going to have a different mental process. And your thoughts can be different because obviously the emotions you're feeling, and the ideas that you have due to all of that stuff. The 4th is the astral layer, which is connected to the heart chakra, and the bridge between the physical and astral plane. It should be rainbow colours, and the reach of it should be 8 inches to 12 inches. So, basically, the astral layer is connected to your heart chakra between, and it's the bridge between the physical and astral plane. So, because we all are sort of, I think it's supposed to refer to the universe aspect of life, and how we're kind of like all connected to the universe in that way. And the colour is like rainbow generally. Reaches between 8 and 12 inches. If spiritual health is good, colours are vibrant, and these colours, if there are issues, these colours are muted. And I do think your spiritual health is really important, not only from your spiritual health in terms of the media is very much geared towards self-improvement and like finding your inner purpose and all that. I've done a video in the past on how I don't think finding your purpose is necessarily, or your overall purpose, or even sometimes your purpose in the short term is very helpful. I think it can be good to focus, and I think it can be good to write down your goals. I suppose you could say that as the same thing, but what I mean is there is this sort of mythological concept, I think, in some aspect. Not mythological, but this, I mean, sometimes people do have a purpose and a vocation that they want to strive for. They want to strive for children, they want to strive for marriage. That's fine to have that in your mind. But that's one purpose. But I think people can get so caught up in this idea of purpose that you're not really... I've got a whole video on that, so let me not digress to ramble if you like. But yeah, in terms of your spiritual health, like it's different for different people. I think I like to do tarot sometimes. I'm not advocating witchcraft here, but I think even meditation, meditation. I don't advocate witchcraft because I think it could be something that's very difficult to navigate, and also something that is not related to everyone. Not everyone gets, and I think it can bring about some really bad things if you don't know what you're doing, and if you're not protecting yourself. So I would not advocate witchcraft. I'm just putting that out there. So anyway, I have to always say that, and it stresses me right out. So if yeah, but the bridge between the physical and astral plane. So yeah, obviously, besides like spirituality practices, which I was having this conversation with someone else recently. Like I have a level of religion. I don't like to say it as religion because religion is a very broad spectrum word, and it can have a lot of negative connotations due to the people more so within it. And it even says in the Bible, it talks about the hypocrites in the synagogues, which is why I think the Bible and stuff has a bad name, Christianity and stuff, and it's also not for everyone. Lots of people have lots of different religions, but I do think there can be this sense of like source energy that can be found in most religions, whichever way you want to look at it. Even through things like meditation, it's like sometimes talks about connecting to source, connecting to the ground, even connecting to like nature, and like in even paganism and stuff. There's like this divine nature aspect, or like divinity in nature, which is kind of like a source godly type of energy that even if you don't want to think of a god, it's like, you know, you still connect to that level of stuff. So I guess it just kind of puts things in perspective sometimes, in terms of like how you're going about life. I do think you can go through periods and there's nothing wrong with putting yourself first in life. I think that's part of it. But at the same time, you can be like being part of a collective sometimes, like being in a pub, or, you know, I'm not going to relate this to toxic people because we're just going to tangent way too far. But I think sometimes when people have this godly aspect, let's just put it in there. I'm not going to talk about it. When people have this godly aspect of themselves, I think that shows just dysregulation within the aura and the psyche, when they have, you know, because it must be confusing for them to have that sort of like divine, even though we're all made in the image of God. I think it can be probably confusing, for themselves and maybe other people to have this like god complex. That is sort of what it is. But anyway, I think, talking about sort of logical means, just even going, or for anyone I suppose, but going into like a pub for example, it can give you this group collective of like, we're all, there's more of us here, and like, you know, that's one level. um you know, when, I don't know, I mean there's lots of aspects of spirituality that can be considered here. The fifth is your etherical template, um and it can be connected to the throat chakra. This is connected to the throat chakra, and it talks about the blueprint of your body. It's about the blueprint of your body, and the colors are like a negative photo. The reach is 1 to 2 inches from your body, and it creates a negative space. I suppose to process negative stuff, and this is why I think a level of toxic positivity probably also affects other areas like mental and emotional layers, but I do think when people have this level of false positivity and they're not facing truths or situations and stuff, this um, layer of the throat chakra. Oh, do you know when you just have a really really good sneeze? That was a great sneeze. This connection to the throat chakra, it really can be um a good space for a space for connecting to obviously the negative, like, you know, and like if you have certain conditioning which disallows you from looking at the negative and stuff, like it's gonna be difficult when you are discerning and stuff. And I think that's why it's so important to process like trauma and stuff if you've got like a lack of discernment, or like, as I say, like blind spots and stuff, because even though it's a small layer, obviously it doesn't matter the size of the layer, it's still going to be important. But if you, for example, you can maybe have stored, I do think there can be this sense of shadow self potentially that can maybe come from this area if you're not really looking at the negative, because it's got to go somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Because your body's and your mind's still acknowledging it. It's just it's going into your subconsciousness, being stuffed into this, subconscious layer level or ethereal template level, and it's maybe not being processed or something. Which can probably just affect your other layers. So I think it is important, and I just suppose we all strive for regulation as much as we can. And you've got to consider as well, we all have different temperaments and also dispositions to stuff. For example, I suppose it can be a level of adaptivity to look at someone with, for example, with borderline traits or something, to not consider all of their negative aspects for the sense of rejection they may feel in that moment, or the perceived negative feelings that they may get. And same with narcissism, potentially to not look at the negative aspects of the fact that people may have a dislike towards them, so they don't feel like their ego is being attacked or something. That is something also to consider. So the sixth layer is about unconditional love. It's in the spiritual realm. The colours are shimmering pastel, and they reach the 29 to 36 inch away from your body. So quite far away, to be fair. So I'm just trying to think. That's quite separate from the rest of them. It's called the celestial layer, if I didn't say. Communication with the spirit realm takes care. I didn't know that everyone actually had one of these. Like, I've looked at this picture before, obviously. I didn't know that everyone had this. I thought that lots of people had like spiritual gifts, and that was kind of their. I mean, maybe you can put this towards a sense of intuition on some level, because I think your intuition can also come from your inner emotion and stuff. But I thought some people had this like ability, obviously working on the information that's here, and other people didn't. But apparently, we all have this layer. Again, it's one holistic theory, but that's quite cool to know. Maybe some people are just more in tune with it. Because I have seen some people that are like super, super in touch, and like, like people that are like readers and stuff. Anyway, let's not talk about witchcraft and all that spiritual practices, new age shit here. But I have seen it happen where, people are proper in touch with that stuff, because I don't think it's something that you should dabble with if you don't have any clue about it. From experience, it's not always the best. So the seventh is the spiritual template. And it's the last layer I'm going to talk about, but it surrounds all the other layers. I don't see how that surrounds all the other layers if it's only 3 inches. Anyway, it is about all of your experiences and it's about all of your experiences and layers, and it's in shades of gold, and it vibrates at the highest frequency, and reflects all the events that your soul has been through. So I think when it says shades of gold, I think this can be a sense of like emotional and like soul scarring, if you like, that is reflected in this layer that it's talking about. If you have like, like scarring, like dark shades of gold, it could be a level of like hard times that it's taken you a while to get through and stuff, and then that adds to your spiritual template. Because I think you can get a sense of another person from their layers. And I think maybe this, I always like to find security, because I'm a words of affirmation person. That's my love language, so I also like to give it to myself, obviously. I do find security in that, because I also think that it kind of shows this level of, regardless of what people say about you, they have their own intuition. If they're gonna look at you, which we all kind of intake other people's, energy and stuff, we all intake other people's like, aura, if you like, without even realising it. And whether you're that interested, that's a bit weird to say, oh, we all see each other's auras. I'm not saying we see each other's auras, and I'm not saying that we care about taking another person's aura, but I mean, you can have a lot of bad stuff said about you, but you can still have that layer which reflects your honest, true soul's path. Because I think a lot of lies can go around about different people who have a lot of things kind of said about them that are incorrect. but you can sense on that aspect of the way that we all have our own soul's path, and it's just what it is. So yes, that is all I'm going to talk about in this video. It's probably quite long. If it's worth watching, I will upload it. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.